during the 50s, there were significant architects who were practicing in New Orleans who were regularly published in progressive architecture and given awards for their innovative design. And Charles Colbert, who was actually a dean at Columbia, I think in the 60s, Arthur Davis and Buster Curtis, the firm Curtis and Davis, who had an international practice, and others really pushed a regional modernism here, really before the term was, I guess, established. And what all of these schools sort of shared was a connection to climate, a connection to New Orleans, and a way of looking at an efficient, modern approach to education. So they were really trying to look at advancements in the educational model for schools at the time. A lot of these schools are in the process of being demolished or scheduled for demolition because of damages that occurred during the flooding of 2005. These schools, some of them which were in floodplains, some of them were often in very poor neighborhoods, a lot of them took very extensive damage. So FEMA came in because a lot of the schools were designated as having a historic significance. FEMA looked through their Section 106 process, which involved community hearings and cost analysis through the recovery school districts. The school Phillis Wheatley in Tremé was one that we participated in, saying we meaning Docomomo, Louisiana, which was a chapter formed for international organization, I think in probably 2006 or 2007, to look at trying to preserve these buildings. We were very actively involved in Wheatley and Tommy LaFawn, trying to look at and enlightening the public about the importance of these buildings in our cultural heritage here, because of those aspects that pertain to regional modernism. The Wheatley School was a steel frame structure built in a truss configuration with probably 20-foot cantilevers on each end. The building was raised about 12 feet off the ground, and the ideas behind that was, one, to provide a shaded area for children to play at during recess. Also being raised above, they didn't have air conditioning, so the idea was to be able to utilize natural ventilation through the buildings, because it worked also with exterior circulation elements. So they really, the architects were very sensitive at trying to provide natural ventilation for cooling in these buildings, because New Orleans has a hot, humid climate. And I think they were very successful. If you look at some of the images from Wheatley, you can really sort of see the building floating above 19th century New Orleans. And the contrast between those historic buildings and the modern feel of Wheatley, I think really addressed the idea of contemporary education, the push to educate children in New Orleans to modern standards, and was a real success. A lot of people that we talked to who attended Wheatley and some of these other schools had a lot of pride in going to these classrooms because they were modern.